Yes.
Since you're a reader, I asked this question of another author, and he ended up using two authors using the same protagonist, interweaving this again as a story. Have you ever thought of doing that with? I know you've talked with Steve Berry.
Well, Steve Berry and Brad Thor and Doug Preston and I have occasionally made mention of our different characters in our different books. Like I mentioned Steve Berry's character and the Preston character in this book, and so we occasionally make secret nods to one another, and which was not a good idea initially, because for the longest time people used to think that Steve Berry and I were the same person. We write similar type of novels. I'm more science-based, he's more history-based. And when we did that, he mentioned my main character and I mentioned his main character, that everybody thought that was a secret hint to the world that we really were the same person. So after that, he got slew of letters, and I got a slew of letters, saying, wink, wink, we know you're really Steve Berry, or Steve Case. We know you're really James Rollins. So eventually, in our last book, we toured together a little bit, just to prove that we were not indeed the same person. But it'd be fun to merge Cotton Malone and Painter Crow and have an adventure together. Yeah. But the problem is that he's with Random House on HarperCollins, and it's a Romeo and Juliet type of thing. They would literally probably kill us if we tried to combine those characters. They're both, my house is very possessive of my characters, his house is very possessive of his characters. If we tried to cross over, they would not like it. Anybody else? Yes?
I'm interested in the Jake Ransoms, because we've had a couple of authors lately who are known for their adult novels and have started writing series. How's that been for you? Difference in terms of the process, and if you enjoyed it?
For enjoyment, it's a blast. I get to be literally a 13-year-old kid again, going on these adventures. When I was 13 years, when I was sitting at that table I was telling you about the things I wanted to be, besides the veterinarian, I had two other things on my list: marine biologist and archaeologist. So to be Jake Ransom, I get to be that boy archaeologist. Jake Ransom basically is a son of two archaeologists who vanished during a dig in Mexico, and 3 years later a package arrives on the doorstep. No return address, but it contains his parents' journals and a mysterious coin. And it's up to Jake and his sister to go on this grand adventure through time and space and through different prehistoric landscapes to discover what happened to his parents. So it's just a joy to write. And basically, those are the stories I grew up reading when I was that age. And there's a little bit of magic, but not a lot. It's not a Harry Potter type of thing. This kid's just an ordinary kid, and I like the fact that this spunky, ordinary kid is able to, go on this grand adventure and get himself out of jams, not because of any superpowers or extra extraordinary strength, just basically by using his noggin and knowledge. And so, that's what I grew up reading. I read the Danny Dunn Scientific Mysteries and Alfred Hitchcock's 3 Investigators series when I was a young kid, which, again, I'm just trying to harken back to that. Plus, I get to put dinosaurs in books, and Michael Crichton pretty much ruined it for all of us. It was an adult fiction, so I thought, well, I can't have dinosaurs running around eating adults anymore, so what about kids? They make wonderful little snacks. So that became that series. And for the longest time, I've been writing 2 books a year. It's a secret, poorly kept secret that under a different pen name I have written from fantasy books. And so I did I don't know if I can write a staccato thriller after staccato thriller after staccato thriller. I'd probably get a little burnt out. I need something to do in between. And the fantasy novels were sufficing for that, but now it got a little bit too hard to do a doorstopper fantasy novel and a intricately researched thriller all within 1 year. So I found that being able to escape into the kids' book a little bit is a nice little break from doing that staccato thriller. So I like doing the alternation like that. Yes?
So I love all your books. I started probably last October. I found the Judas Strain and then worked backwards.
Well, thank you.
Went through all of them and excited. Is it hard writing like a single force novel where if someone comes in, they pick up a book in the middle of the series, so you have to think about
that is
keeping
tough.
a story go that's by itself, but that if a new reader comes in.
Right. I build a story so that hopefully anybody can pick up any book anywhere in the series. It's self-contained. Yes, if you read from the beginning, there's some character bits and pieces in history that that flows through in an order, but you can't actually start anywhere and hopefully self-contain that story. But that is tricky to, how much backstory do you give to fill in with that doesn't slow the story down? How much backstory doesn't ruin the previous novel? So that if you've read this novel, you go, well, that ruined this novel. So it's a fine line between giving enough so that you can pick up the story and have it be self-contained, and have it ruin either a previous book or boring the reader to death with all the back history that you have to pour into the current novel. So it is tricky. It's hard. One of the reasons that I actually resisted doing a series for the longest period of time is my first initial books were all standalone thrillers. Sandstorm introduced Sigma Force, and eventually Map of Bones became the first of the Sigma Force series. And for the longest time, my publisher says, series, do a series. We want you to do a series, because I think it's easier for them to market a series. And I just didn't want to do it. I resisted it for the longest period of time, mostly because of what I call the Murder, She Wrote syndrome. Everybody see Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote. Maybe I'm aging myself. But Jessica Fletcher would always run into a murder, dead body at the beginning of this episode. But after a while, as a viewer, you begin to wonder, well, how come she's always stumbling over dead bodies? I've never stumbled over a dead body, but she's stumbling over a dead body every week. So either two things happen: you suspend your disbelief, you're not believing it anymore, it feels fake and artificial, or she's a serial killer. She's cleverly been actually doing all these murders and framing other people. So to me, that was one of the problems with writing the series. Is eventually you begin to you can lose. The suspension of disbelief begins to fade. And the other problem with series also is that, as much as you would like it to happen, Jessica Fletcher does not die at the end of that episode. She's going to live because she's going to be next week's episode. So it's hard, it weakens the jeopardy, because she's safe no matter what looks like it's going to happen to her. She's not really going to die. So it's hard to keep that jeopardy up. So when I invented the Sigma Force team, I thought, well, maybe I can build a series based on a team. Therefore, the jeopardy can come from very many different directions. I can potentially kill off a character because it is a team and just rotate the characters around, introduce a new character to fulfill that goal. So potentially everybody's at risk. And so by getting rid of those two elements that I was having resistance to doing a series, I felt comfortable enough to create the Sigma Force series. It's a long-winded answer. Sorry about that.